Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
I'm just kind of enjoying seeing so many of us together in our space. It feels so exciting and engaging, so deeply satisfying. We've been through a lot these past few years, a lot. And to now be able to gather together, families and friends, guests, people that have grown up here, people who joined 60 years ago are here. From those first members to our most recent members of the family, to those of you, as I said, who are visiting, who are guests, friends, or just checking us out. So glad that we together fill this space with gratitude, deep sense of gratitude. Just a few years ago, it was an extraordinary moment to be standing on the bima. Susan Glickman was about over here. Becky was somewhere out there, as was our then president, Stacy. She was out there too. Mike was there, our man in charge, the producer. We had a sound guy, and that was it. In this big open space. And what we were charged with doing was taking this experience of a new year, of promise, of hope, of trust, and somehow conveying that. Not the easiest task. But we worked so hard to fulfill that mission. And in so doing, we ended up kind of really opening up a whole different way to access the experience of being part of a community. Many of you have now grown an extra place in your earlobe to either hold your phone or another way to look at the Zoom camera and know which way to hold your head and your background. Some of you have been in the same place. You have not changed anything. Some of you, it drives you crazy. You have to change every week to a different location. Everybody at work goes, "Where are you now?" I'm not even talking about, the faux backgrounds. But we managed. And here we are, and now we have a robust congregation that is sharing with us. All I can see of them is a little red dot on the back of the camera that Harrison is manning back there. But behind that red dot, there are lots of people who are celebrating with us. And on behalf of everyone who's in the sanctuary, we're glad that you're there and that we all get to share this together. Or as the line goes in Fiddler on a Roof, it's a new world, Golda. So, as we continue, so this is my 27th High Holy Days with you. It's a big number. And it's a joyful number. It's a prime number. No, it's not a prime number, but it's a number. And, my family's here, and they're going, "Do not go for the math." Sorry, not a prime number. But anyway, it's a big number, and we can agree on that. And over the years, I've come to know so many of you. We've been through so many things together, highest highs, lowest lows, and I just want you to know how absolutely humbling it is to stand here with you again this year to celebrate and to give thanks. It means the world. And I would like to make sure that you have a sense of who you are praying with today. You might know the people all around you, but you might not. So if you take a moment, please turn to your left and right, in front of you and behind you. Introduce yourself and say, Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova. Man.
Yes. Hey, Josh.
And we're going to start wrapping that part up now.
Have the chords in your binder instead of mine. I do need them, but I can share with you.
We've got some davening to do. All right.
It is literally my job to make sure that
I am, shh. Don't worry, there'll be more time afterwards. One of the great things, we don't have to rush out for the second shift. So after this service, we can hang out in the parking lot. You know, we can tailgate. It's a whole new experience. Okay, Becky, next year, tailgating for Rosh Hashanah. Like Michael Keaton with my tape recorder. All right, so if you are wearing a talit this morning, it is our custom to put on our talitot together. It's kind of a way of acknowledging this ritual that we share in. And for those who don't wear a talit, just to kind of feel what it's like, you know, how there's a slight wind that blows across the sanctuary. And also, it just kind of looks beautiful. And so the blessing is on page 106. Ribono Shalom, creator of the universe, on this new year we ask for your blessing. We ask that you are with us in spirit, with us in hope. We pray for a good life, and that you enable us to achieve the tools that we need to make it so for us, our loved ones, our community, for the world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef batzitzit. Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, 110.
Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael.
on page 120. And as she's gathering her singers with her, for many of you, unless you've been streaming, which you may have been, this is Emma Rayfeld. Emma is our new cantorial leader, and she is a dynamic and fantastic partner. And as I like to say about her, she is building on the secure foundation that Susan Glickman put down 17 years ago, and really even earlier when she was actually a member, the foundation that of all the ways in which we acknowledge God's presence and the way we hope, the way we pray, that it's with joy and with a neshama, a soul that reaches towards the heavens. And she got one of those. So, and we got her. And we are extremely lucky and blessed that she will be leading us henceforth. And we're honored.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm really happy to be here with you. I thank you for my life, body and soul. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. I'm perfect the way I am, and a little broken too. I will live each day as a gift I give to you.
Whoa. Throughout the course of this morning through to the end of Yom Kippur, there'll be times when I'll say, please rise as you are able. And I want you to know, given this stage in my rabbinate, in my understanding of how all of this works, that it's an invitation, not a command. If you like to stay seated, you may stay seated. If you want to stand for the entire service, gam zelatov, that's all good. Your posture during the service is secondary to where your heart is. And whether you're standing or sitting doesn't much affect that dynamic. This process of gathering to pray is a tricky one, and it gets dicier every year. If you read all of the stories in the major newspapers about religion and about faith, whether it's Jews, Christians, Muslims, we're watching a slow number of people stepping back, the largest growing religious group in America is called the Nuns. N-O-N-E-S, the Nuns. When you say, hey, what religion are you? Nothing really. Which, for a rabbi, is kind of like, oh, like, really? It's a trend, it's a real trend, and it's a scary trend. And to me, it reflects a lack of deeper understanding about what's possible to achieve when one gathers as a faith community. And so some of you are here and you got this prayer thing down. You've been doing it for years, you love it. Maybe you grew up in a conservative synagogue, maybe you grew up in a reform, maybe you grew up not even Jewish, but now that you're Jewish or Jewish adjacent, you love it. It's part of your life. It's a prayer language that resonates. And some of you are here because someone dragged you here. I know, I understand. And my suggestion would be, instead of being ticked off at that person for the next couple of hours, I would like to offer an alternative, which is to open up this prayer book that you have. If you want to follow along, great. If you don't want to open the book, great. Well, not as great, but okay. And if you just want to kind of use it as a source of inspiration, as a source of knowledge, there's fantastic readings, poetry. It's not a requirement that you follow along. It's just, if you're here a little bit against your will, you can use this time for yourself. It can still be productive as a time for meditation, as a time for reassessment, a time to think about what it means to be alive, what it means to give thanks, and just count all the reasons that you feel thankful, and all the reasons that things get in the way sometimes to prevent you from being there. That's a pretty good assignment, I think, as an alternative to joyfully dancing and singing with us. We're here together, we're sharing as a community. We accept every individual difference, every individual perspective. We are all a congregation this morning under this roof. And it is a challenge. For sure, it's a challenge. But it's also a marvelous invitation to meditate, to grow, to think, to thank. We're on page 142. If you would rise as you are able.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed.
Folks, if you'll be seated, please. On page 145. This beautiful poem by Mary Oliver. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning. Spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star, that just happens to be where you are in the universe to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness, in kindness.
Baruch
Atah Adonai Yotzer Me'orot. Page 146.
Ahava Rabbah.
Ahava Rabbah. Ahava Rabbah.
how deeply you have loved us. Adonai Eloheinu, how deeply you have loved us. How deeply you have loved us. How deeply you have loved us. Adonai Eloheinu.
On page 150. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
152.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ug'shartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem Emet.
It's an honor to invite Carol Rodenstein, our president, to deliver her third and concluding presidential address.
Logistics first. Okay. Shana Tova, everyone here. Shana Tova, everyone there. And thank you all for being with us today. As Rabbi said, this is my third and final year of being your president. It is also the last time I will be speaking to you from the Bima during high holidays. It is a momentous milestone, and I stand here a little sad, but yet simultaneously filled with gratitude. I am truly humbled and honored to be your president as we prepare for our 60th anniversary. The story of Temple Beth Avodah is fascinating and inspiring, and this year we will be finding ways for each of us to share our part in our collective story. We'll hear from our newest congregants and why they chose to join our temple family, and we'll hear from our founders, to whom we are so indebted. And we'll hear from everyone in between. We have grown from a dozen founding families in 1963 to 416 families 60 years later. This year, we are welcoming 30 new family members to our temple community. That is almost twice the number of new members that we had last year. By the way, the vast majority of our new members were recommended by a current member. Your personal recommendation is the most important way that our community grows. Word of mouth is everything. Thank you for sharing your love of Temple Beth Avodah with the broader community. And thank you for welcoming our new members with open arms. And to our new members, thank you. We are so blessed to have all of you join our family. I am filled with appreciation for the many milestones our community has shared over the past 60 years and the ways in which we support one another. We've welcomed new babies, celebrated B'nai Mitzvah, and then rejoiced in the marriage of our children years later, just like I did in June. We've comforted one another in illness and struggle and mourn losses together. Throughout it all, we are so blessed to have each other. By caring for one another, we uplift and inspire each other and create a truly meaningful and fulfilling communal experience. With this in mind, we are building on the past and creating a new initiative called TBA Cares that will focus on the Jewish value of chesed, caring, kindness, connection, and compassion. Through this initiative, we will strive to be present for one another in the big and small moments that matter. Ellen Meisel, one of our past presidents and one of the kindest people I know, is heading up the effort. Thank you, Ellen. But it will not be successful with Ellen alone. We need you. We need you to volunteer to check in on a fellow congregant. We need you to share when you know someone in our community is struggling. And we need you to ask for help for yourself and your family. It is our shared experiences and support for each other that deepens the bond and vitality of our temple family. In this community that I am blessed to be a part of, we are each seen and embraced as individuals. We pride ourselves in building space where everyone can find their own unique meaning and importance. We see this in our education programs, whether you have a toddler in our preschool, a B'nai Mitzvah child with their own unique individual service, or a teen who finds their own path to TBA. We see this in our adults through more intimate groups like knitting and game night, Torah class, adult learning sessions, and through larger social events, and of course, through our Shabbat services. But mostly, we see this with the individual interactions with one another and with the clergy and staff as we move through life stages. Whatever stage of life you are in and whatever your journey has been, your voice and your involvement in the TBA community is the key for the future. We are all owners of Temple Beth Avodah. In our new member commitment model, you have made the choice of keeping Temple Beth Avodah vibrant and strong. You'll hear an update on our incredible progress and the results of this model on Yom Kippur from our dedicated and fabulous treasurer, David Cohen. Through this process, we have learned that you are committed and connected to TBA. We have learned about the ways you feel that TBA has made a difference in your life. And we've learned about the ways we can continue to improve. I am so grateful for your partnership and your voice in this process. And we want to hear more. To that end, the board has committed to reaching out to you periodically throughout the year. Each of you has a specific board member liaison to whom you may have already heard from or you'll hear from soon. This is an opportunity to get to know one of our board members just a little bit better, and an opportunity for every board member to get to know you. We want to hear your voice, your thoughts, what you like, any ideas for improvement. You will have a direct line into what the board is focused on, and they will have direct communication from you. If you want to meet your board member or any of the board members, we are all wearing name tags identifying our role. Please introduce yourself and let's wish each other a Shana Tova. We have an incredibly devoted and talented set of lay leaders, and I am thankful for the time and energy of our executive committee and board who keep TBA operational and progressive. Notwithstanding, our community is blessed to have an outstanding staff team as well. I am appreciative of all of the hard work of our staff and clergy who help us create the community we aspire to be. Shout out to our educational team, Heidi Baker, Rebecca Bazin, Stacy Gabriel, Gabby Yarita, and Eva Willard Bauer, along with the rest of our staff, Eileen Brooks, Doug Ball, Jenna Walker, Alexa Weintraub, Becky Oliver, who is the glue and make all of us a little bit better, and Rabbi Stern, who is our heart and soul. In addition, I am elated to welcome 2 new members to our team. Today marks the first high holidays that our beloved Rabbi Stern and our new fantastic cantorial leader, Emma Rayfeld, are leading us together. It is obvious to all of us that even though they are just beginning their spiritual and musical journey together, they have already created a chemistry and atmosphere that makes us want more and more. I, for one, am both mesmerized and spiritually moved and can't wait to see and hear where they take us next. Later this month, we'll be welcoming a rabbinic intern for the year, Rabbi Michaela Brown. Rabbi Brown is a 5th-year rabbinic student at Hebrew College in Newton. She will be sharing in several aspects of TBA life and interacting with many different ages in her part-time role. Whether it's youth education, social action, adult learning, or community events, we look forward to getting to know Rabbi Brown and welcoming her into our community. Emma and Rabbi Brown are joining an extraordinary team, and I am eager to see how their collective leadership and partnership can take us to even greater heights. At this moment, in this, my final presidential high holiday address, I want to pause and express my honor and gratitude for my loving parents, who are 93 and 94 and just celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary. How blessed am I to be able to care for them and experience those amazing milestones with them. I am also particularly grateful to my beloved mother-in-law, Ellie, who I call my second mom, my beautiful and talented daughters, Marissa and Jocelyn, my new son and favorite beer buddy, Sam, and of course, my devoted husband, Mark, for being here today and every day to support me. I know this might sound a little corny, but each day I truly pause and take a moment to let in all of that joy and love that surrounds me, including the blessing of our Temple Beth Avodah community. My final words of gratitude are for each of you. Your kind and encouraging words and your commitment to our TBA family. I am deeply, deeply thankful for the ways each of you contribute to our community. Your volunteerism, your leadership, your philanthropy, your presence, your support, all create this incredible community that we call home. We are all an integral part of TBA. This is a year of reinvigoration, recommitment, and strength, with growing membership, talented new clergy, a new membership model, exciting programming, and a celebration of TBA's 60th anniversary. We are well positioned for 5784. Working together with our fantastic staff, our extraordinary clergy, our talented executive committee, and our dedicated board, and you, our TBA community will continue to grow with purpose and strength. I am thrilled to what has been accomplished and even more excited for what is to come. I am grateful to be your president for one more year, and I know that will be an exceptional one. Shana Tova to you and yours.
Shana Tova. We're on page 164.
Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osef ele, shira chadasha, shibchu geulim l'shimcha al sfat hayam, yachad kulam uduvim lechu ve'amru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Tzur Yisrael, kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, uvdechinu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Golenu Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kadosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
As we continue on 166, it's worth registering that this is one of the special Amidah prayers that we do between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And it includes Unatana Tokef, it includes a variety of melodies that remind us not only of the joy of the new year, but the sobering notion, the reminder that we are mortal and that every day is precious. And we lose sight of that fact all the time. We lose track of how dear and how significant every minute can be. But it only is that special moment when we signify it, when we make it something, when we make it count. Because no one is assigned to remind us of that. And so when we sing in just a little bit, Unatana Tokef, who shall live and who shall die, I always suggest that instead of imagining that God is in the heavens with one of those green visor banker hats kind of dealing out names, which I find kind of a repellent image. And while our ancestors might have imagined in the Middle Ages that God actually did that, actually spent time deciding who goes in which book, my theology instead would lead us to acknowledge the truth that we don't know what will happen to us from day to day, from week to week. And these words, who shall live and who shall die, sound rather obtuse and distant. The point of the prayer, our postmodern point of the prayer, is in fact, these are not superficial words. These are not meaningless phrases. They are instead stark reminders, given that we don't know, we can't know. All we can do is respond to the possibility, to the reality of our mortality by making the days special. Earlier this morning, we had a family service, and I just said to the kids, like, when we say it's a new year, not only that it should be a good year, it should be a sweet year. And to make it sweet is to acknowledge the best parts, even when it's hard to find the best parts sometimes. But to acknowledge the best parts, the sweetness of life, that is our task. That we have a choice over. Not what might happen to us, but certainly a choice to look at it and bring to it that seasoning of sweetness and hope. We're on 166. If you would, please rise as you are able.
Yada die die die.
Yalla lie lie lie. 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 Yalla lie lie lie.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadonai, 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 Yadonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Agadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevii Geola Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava. Zochreinu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chotvenu b'sefer hachayim, lemancha Elohim chayim.
Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Amen. Ata gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol ata, Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal. Mechalkel chaim b'chesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofeh cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato l'shenei afar. Michamocha ba'al gevurot u'midom elach, Melech meimit u'mechayim u'matzliach Yeshua. Michamocha el harachamim, zocher yitzurav lechaim berachamim, v'ne'emanata l'chachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hametim. Amen. U'netan et tokef kedushat hayom, ki hu nora ve'ayom, uvot tinaseh malachutecha, v'ikon bechesed kisecha, v'teshev alav be'emet. On page 178. Rosh Hashanah yikatevun, uvyom Tzom Kippur yechatemun, Kama yavorun v'chama yebarehun, mi yichya u'mi yamut, mi v'kitzo u'mi lo v'kitzo. Berosh Hashanah yikatevun,
יכתבון, וביום צום כיפור יכתבון, יכתבון. מי באש ומי במים, מי בחרב ומי בחיה, מי ברעב ומי בצמא. בראש השנה יכתבון, יכתבון, וביום צום כיפור יכתבון, יכתבון. מי ברעש, מי במגפה, מי בחניקה ומי בסקילה, מי ינוח ומי ינוע, מי ישקיט ומי יטורף. בראש השנה יכתבון, יכתבון, וביום צום כיפור יכתבון, יכתבון. מי ישלב ומי יתייסר, מי יעני ומי יעשיר, מי יושפל ומי ירום. בראש השנה יכתבון, יכתבון, וביום צום כיפור יכתבון, יכתבון. On Rosh Hashanah, we plunge like swimmers into a sea of words. On Yom Kippur, the sea rises, then crests, and we emerge, sealed by the wax, warmed by the fire of braided candle. The new year is like a trailhead opening wide before us, the day of fasting narrow, breathless, so quick to close. We contemplate a new year, and this we know. Some of us will live and some of us will die. Some will die young and some very old. Some by water, some by fire, some by sword and some by beast. Some by hunger and some by thirst. Some by plague and some by earthquake. Some by stoning and some by strangling. Some of us will feel at ease. Some will be restless. Some will have peace of mind, some will have strife. Some will be tranquil, some will be tormented. Some will be raised high, some will be brought low. Some will have riches, some will be impoverished. Even so, the way we act, the way we speak, the way we meet God's image in ourselves and in others, these things have great power to make our lives matter. Therefore, let us make whole the broken shards, green and thick, the withering grass. Let the wind fill us with urgency for life. Let dreams give birth to justice and goodness. God of holiness, God of hope, let us glimpse your truth as we attach our hopes to yours. Uteshuva utefila utzedaka mavirit et roa hagezera. Page 184.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כי שם שמך תשמעו אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר,
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, kevod Adonai mimkomo.
Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Shi'enu v'hu Yashmi'enu, v'rachamav le'inei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem,
Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohayich Tzion, ledor vador. Hallelujah.
לדור ודור נגיד God lecha, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש.
Please be seated. On page 197. By Pablo Neruda, remembered for life. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second, not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers and sisters in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now, I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go.
Chesed v'rachamim, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, sim shalom. B'sefer chaim beracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha anachnu v'chol amecha Beit Yisrael L'chaim tovim u'leshalom Baruch atah Adonai osei hashalom
Josh, you're so far away.
the opening chords of Avinu Malkeinu stir us, fill us with memories. I'd like to think with a renewed sense of prayer and purpose. We're on page 223. Will you please rise as you are able? Please join me. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim, Aseh imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, Aseh imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, V'hoshienu.
Avinu Malkeinu,
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim. We continue with our Torah service. I'd like to invite a few people up who are participating in that. First, I would like to invite Ione Probstein and Hannah Tarmi, our co-Bagel presidents, if you'd please join us. And I would like to invite, as our third Torah carrier, a person who has devoted so much of his life to making sure that Bagel was and will always be a thriving youth organization within the temple, and that would be Bobby Zucker. If you'd please join us on the bima as well. And then our, lest we forget, our Torah readers for this Rosh Hashanah morning, Iri Sonnenschein, Gemma Dorfman, Perry Barrist, and Cami Blaustein. If you will please join us now on the bima. And folks, if you would please turn to page 227. Ein kamocha ve'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Avarachamim eitiv avirtzonecha et Zion, tivnei chom Yerushalayim ki vecha levad batachnu melech elam v'nisa Adon olamim. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim, V'rav Chesed ve'emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Nosei avon v'fesha, V'chata v'nakeh. There you go. Go and stay heavier one. When you come back up, this is going to go on the Torah table, I suggest. Come up this, stand up over here. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah. Shema, turn around, face the ark. Gadlu Adonai iti, uneromema shemo yachdav. Hit the outfield. If you'll go down around the center, if you'll go down the far end and loop back around. You can follow anybody you want. You can follow anybody you want.
Romembu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Romembu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Pishtachvu lehar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Ki katuv lehar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romembu, Romembu, Adonai Eloheinu. Romembu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romembu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romembu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romembu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romembu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romembu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romembu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romembu,
Please be seated.
Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar
Go back, Torah reader, just kind of find a seat and sit down. There's some on that side too. I had a bit of a revelatory experience in preparing for the Torah service. We've only done Akedat Yitzchak, this Torah reading for, forever. And I thought by now, I think I've probably studied it like over 50 years between college, rabbinic school, and then as a congregational rabbi. And until recently, like the other day, it didn't occur to me that I could read it from a different perspective. I thought I'd pretty much hit them all. But it occurred to me the whole time that I had missed something fundamental to this story of the binding of Isaac. When God commands Abraham as a test, explicitly, when God says, take your son, the only son, the one you love, Isaac, and bring him to a place that I will show you. And when you get there, you will offer him up as a sacrifice. The same Isaac, by the way, that he wants him to offer up, who is the future of the Jewish people. Like, if you kill Isaac, then what? Then what? So I've always focused on what did it feel to be Abraham? What did it feel like to be Isaac? What did it feel like to be Sarah, waiting and going, where did they go? I've thought about what was it like to be the ram that comes to the rescue towards the end. I guess I got a job here to do, But it never occurred to me there was a piece of this so important. It's a piece I've never paid attention to, ever. And I can't believe it. So towards the end, you might remember that Abraham is ready. He brings all the materials up, he lifts up the knife, and he's going to, not to be too graphic here, he's about to sever, is this the right side, Aaron? Okay, to sever his son's carotid artery. If you do that, I think you can be pretty sure, you can ask all my medical professionals, if you cut it, it's pretty sure you will bleed out. And in fact, when you slaughter cows for kashrut purposes, that is where the shochet, the butcher, has to deliver the slice. And he doesn't get two chances. Okay, enough with that gross stuff. But the point is that Abraham is ready to do it. The text tells us he's lifting up the knife. And an angel is sent by God who says, Abraham, Abraham. And Abraham says, yes, here I am. I'm about to do the job here. And the angel says, don't do it. Stop. Okay, so up to that part, I figured out, but there's another part, that happens after. Here's the part I never paid attention to. It says, the angel of God called to Abraham from the heavens a second time, right? So the first time he stops him, but he calls a second time. And then the angel on behalf of God says the following: I swear by myself, not the angel, this is God. God says, I swear by myself that because you have done this thing and have not held back your son, your only one, I shall surely bless you, and I shall surely multiply your seed like the stars in the heavens, like the grains of sand on the shore of the sea. And your seed will inherit the gates of their enemies, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed by your seed, because you listened to my voice. This is the only place where God swears by God's self. The only place in the whole Bible where God makes this declaration. And I realize that the Abraham that we see a chapter before, remember that part where God says, I'm going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And Abraham says to God, whoa. What if I found 40 righteous people there? Would you spare them? And God says, fine, for 40. And then Abraham doesn't stop. He keeps on going. Would you spare them for 35? 30. And when he gets down to 10, the deal is set. But the point is that Abraham shows unbelievable chutzpah. Really, like who has the authority to say to God, not so fast? Not cool. Not good. And so we think, oh, and in this, so what happens? The next chapter, he's silent. He's silent. He doesn't say anything to God, like, no, you can't ask me to kill my own. I mean, forget it. The very act of not saying no, but saying, okay, God, all right, you want to go into this interaction? You want to see who's willing to do what? You want to take this right to the wall? All right, let's go. Let's go. And sure enough, when Abraham lifts up that knife, God realizes that in fact, this guy, Abraham, means business. And his faith is so deep, so significant, he's willing to go toe to toe with the Holy One. Amazing. I never thought, though, I've read this for 50 years. It never occurred to me to read this particular. I was so taken by the drama of the players in this, it never occurred to me to wonder, why? Why does God do it? And here it is. God is so impressed. God says, I will make this promise on myself. God does not do this, but God does it because God is so impressed with Abraham's willingness to go toe to toe, to go to the very extreme to prove the point that he will stand as a man of integrity. The promise that God does not leave us, the promise that God stands by us, is made in this Torah portion. And so we begin to see something different. Why did the rabbis choose that we should read this Torah portion on the second day? And I'd always go, I have no idea. It's always puzzled me. Now I feel some clarity here. I understand in this moment that our relationship is sealed. The covenant is locked in. God says, because of what you did that day, I will not leave your side, and I will bless you and every generation after you. That's a New Year blessing. And one more interesting point about this. God makes this promise to Abraham, swears this swear. And this is the last time that God speaks to Abraham. Last time in this arc of the story. What needed to be said was said. What needed to be done was done. And what remains is the promise that we are fulfilling even now in this space together. It's Torah time. So Iris Sonnenschein is our first reader. Iris has been our steadfast been a mitzvah tutor for a number of years. She used to have dark black hair. And it is such an honor that you lead us off in the reading this year, because you've given the gift of the sound of Torah to so many of our students and families, and that we get to share it with you. It's an honor. And now, before Iris begins to chant, obviously we need to say the blessings. So here's how we do this typically. First, if you have joined Temple Beth Avodah in the past year, would you please stand up? I can't see you on the camera, so I assume you're standing up. All right. Thank God. Stay standing, please. Stay standing. I'd like to invite, if you got married or put on a wedding in the past year, would you please stand up? Nice. If you had a bar or bat mitzvah or put on a bar or bat mitzvah this past year, would you please stand up? If you joined Temple Beth Avodah 25 years ago or longer, would you please stand up? If you have traveled to Israel over the last 10 years, would you please stand up?
That's really cool.
If you sent somebody to college, or you yourself went to college, would you please stand up? If you're under the age of 20, would you please stand up? If somehow I've missed your category, would you please stand up? Okay, good. That pretty much gets everybody. Good. All right. We're going to ask everyone to do the blessing before and the blessing after the reading of the Torah. And it is in your book on page 240. 230? Dentist's time. 230. Okay. Iris, if you please step up. And let's open the Torah, make sure we're in the right Torah.
Yeah,
That looks right.
that looks right.
Good. All right, is everybody ready to chant the blessing together? 1, 2, 3. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach li'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. If you'll please be seated in our custom, the Sephardic custom. If you're related to the person who's reading from the Torah, when it's their turn, if you would please stand up. 1 second, let me get my notebook. I mean, I trust you. I just want to follow along. All right, what page are we on? Where's the Torah reading? What page? Can someone call that out, please?
38.
Okay. 238. No, 240.
Different Torah portion.
Right. 240, our Torah portion. I think we can finally begin.
ויהי אחר הדברים האלה, והאלוהים נישא את אברהם, ויאמר אליו אברהם, ויאמר הנני, ויאמר קח נא את בנך, את יחידך, אשר אהבת את יצחק, ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה, והעלהו שם לעולה על אחד ההרים אשר אומר אליך. וישכם אברהם בבוקר, ויחבוש את חמורו, ויקח את שני נעריו איתו, ואת יצחק בנו, ויבקע עולה, ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים.
Gemma Dorfman is next.
ביום השלישי ויישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא את המקום מרחוק. ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו, שבו לכם פה עמך חמור, ואני והנער נלכה עד כה, ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה, וישם על יצחק בנו, ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכלת, וילכו שניכם יחדיו. ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו, ויאמר אבי, ויאמר הנני בני, ויאמר הנה האש והעצים, ויעשה לעולם. ויאמר אברהם אלוהים יראה לו, עשה לעולה בני, וילכו שניכם יחדיו.
Perry Barrist, our next reader.
ויבואו אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויעקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל לעצים. וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם אברהם, ויאמר הנני. ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל הנער, ואל תעש לו מאומה, כי אתה ידעתי כי ירא אלוהים אתה, ולא הסחת את בנת יחידך ממני. ויישא אברהם את עיניו, ויהר והנה איל אחר, נחז בסבך בקרניו, ויהלך אברהם, ויקח את האיל, ויעלהו לעולה תחת בנו. ויקרא אברהם שם המקום ההוא אדוני יראה, אשר יאמר היום בהר אדוני יראה. ויקרא מלאך אדוני אל אברהם שנית מן השמיים.
ויאמר בנשבתי נאום אדוני כי יען אשר עשית את הדבר הזה ולא הסרת את בנך את יחידיה כי בהר אברכך והרבה הרבה את זרעך ככוכבי השמיים וכחול אשר על שפת הים וירש זרעך את שער אויביו והתברכו בזרעך כל גויי הארץ עקב אשר שמעת בקולי. וישוב אברהם אל נעריו ויקומו וילכו יחדיו אל באר שבע וישב אברהם בבאר שבע.
Now, next, I would immediately call our Hagba and Galila, but I'm just a little moved to just want to add a little thing. Don't worry, it's okay. But I am starkly aware today that there are people in the congregation who over this past year have gone through enormous health journeys. And it has been hard, and it has been frightening, and it has been demoralizing and, did I say scary? For them and for their caregivers, for their families, it is a difficult journey. And for that reason, in the Jewish tradition, there's a blessing. It's on page 233, called the Birkat HaGomel. And it is a way that the person who has made it to the other side, or if you can see the other side within from the deck of your ship, then this is a blessing to say. And by the way, in pre-modern times, when Jews were were shipping across the sea, this was a prayer they would say whenever they got off the boat, which is to say, taking a journey that you had no idea if you were going to make it, and yet somehow you got there. And so I am, if you're comfortable doing so, if you count yourself as a person that has been on that voyage either personally or with loved ones, if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to ask you to please stand up. And I'll be doing the prayer with you, by the way, since I have something to say as well. And so, our part is where it says individual praise. Congregation, your part is where it says congregation. And I think given our gathering, we'll skip down to that third paragraph for both. We will say that one. You will say that together. And this way, it is another means by which we can acknowledge the great blessing to be together. So those of you who are sharing thankfulness, individual, if you'd please read the prayer with me, first in the Hebrew, then in the English. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, melech haolam, hagomer l'chayavim tovot, shegamlani kol tov. And in the English, blessed are you, our God eternal, your majesty fills the universe. Through your generosity, I've experienced your goodness. Congregation? Misha Gamo. And the English at the bottom, may the source of... And together we all say, Amen. Yamdu Hagba Oglila, the honor of lifting and dressing the Torah goes to the Silk family tribe. If you would all come up to the bima and join us. And as you're coming up, it would be good to do the blessing after the Torah. Thank you. So would everyone stand up, please, as you are able? Got a little lost there, sorry.
It's okay.
And now the blessing after the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten Torah. Amen. Kim, if you would clear that seat out of the way. Thank you. All right. Who's going to lift? We can do this as a... Brett, looks like you're on.
You don't think I'm up to it?
I didn't say you shouldn't do it. You're on. Get some leverage, yeah. Vizot Torah. Face the ark. And then have a seat on the chair right over there. Al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Got a belt? We have a cover? We got some bells. The belt goes on, faces. Yeah. Turn it the other way. There you go. I know you remembered. Good job. I just want to say to all of you that it's been such a pleasure to watch your family grow.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And how very blessed we are to have you as part of this family.
Thank you.
Just put this on your shoulder, and you can stand up, and you can go back to your seats. You stay where you are. Going to Eitz Chaim, right? Eitz Chaim li lemachazikim ba v'tomecheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Please be seated. I grew up with a foot in two worlds. One foot was in the world of Vietnam and student demonstrations and race riots. It was about green army jackets with black power fists stenciled on the back like a challenge and a target. It was about underground newspapers and Robert Crumb and the American flag displayed upside down as a sign of distress. I grew up at Woodstock amid the mud and the ecstasy, the great tribal gathering of my generation. I grew up attending the tearful gatherings after Kent State, where we chanted, "One strike, three demands," and we sang "Four Dead" in Ohio. I grew up waiting for my draft number to come up, hoping it would never get to me. In a world of chaos, crumbling under the weight of an endless war and generation gaps and peace signs, I lost JFK in 4th grade, RFK and MLK in the 8th grade. The losses and the bereavements never ended. My other foot was halfway across the world. It was planted in the land of milk and honey, the land of Israel, ancient and beautiful. I grew up from my early adolescence in a world of true believers. I was a member of Young Judea, a Zionist youth movement, not organization, movement, they always said, which taught that the only legitimate place for a Jew to live was in the land of Israel. This was a world of possibility and hope. This was a world of new beginnings. It was green shoots blossoming from the ashes of the Holocaust. Israel, the land of unapologetic Jews, sexy, sunburned Israeli women, and arrogant, handsome Israeli men, armed and ready for physical conflict. It was a place to escape the humiliations of Jewish history and enter a world of ideological purity. It was a world without ambivalence or hesitation. Israel was where I was supposed to go. It was where I would feel the prompts of true belonging. I gained a whole new pantheon of heroes. There were suave men like Theodore Herzl, Max Nordau, brave ideologues like Ben-Gurion and Zev Jabotinsky, erudite European philosophers like Ahad Ha'am and Aleph Dalet Gordon. In this world, my Moses was a guy, a rabbi and professor named Arthur Hertzberg. Excuse me. And the book he wrote, edited, was The Zionist Idea. Lorette, do you still have your copy? I still have my copy. You know how old it is? It's a 400-page book, paperback, costs $4.95. That shows you how old my original volume is. He wrote an introduction in The Zionist Idea, this book, this Bible. That essay was transformational, foundational, the point of origin from what I've known and believed. In this land, Hertzberg described, I wanted to serve in the army. In the land where I actually lived in 3 dimensions, all I wanted to do was not serve in the army. I wanted to dodge the draft any way possible. And so one of the shocking truths of my life is that I've lost my balance in both of my worlds. On each side, I am appalled by the crises of the moment, the fragility of democracy and broken promises, with ramifications that stretch as far as I can see. I admit to you, I feel lost and destabilized. It's like the first time as a student in LA, I was in a California earthquake. And I was in a mall, and you know, when it starts to shake, you want to hold on to something to keep your balance, only everything is moving. There's no place to gain purchase. You are just moving back and forth without any power to find a sense of footing. I used to believe, like every Jewish baby boomer and generation older, if things ever got dark, God forbid, in America, if I ever felt threatened or endangered, I could open the door and escape. You didn't even have to apply for a visa. You simply show up at the counter at Ben Gurion Airport. You tell them your mother or grandmother was Jewish. The trumpets sound. The doors fly open. Welcome, Baruch haba. This promise has sustained millions of Jews over the decades. And until this time last year, that remained a part of the contract. But that was then. And this is now. The Israel of 2023 does not resemble the Israel where I lived in 1972 and 1975 and 1978. It is a land filled with anger, polarization, and strife. And like many of you, I don't know if I still belong. That great, urgent love I felt since I was 15 years old, the Zionism that sustained me through high school and college and framed the first decades of my American rabbinate, the 11 trips to Israel inspired by Arthur Hertzberg, I believe with the heart of a born-again zealot. But now the question for me, and I know for many of you, is how to reconcile this hardwired love, this baked-in commitment to the Zionist idea with a country that is turning its back to us. There is already legislation poised to be ruled on that is intended specifically to disenfranchise non-Orthodox Jews like us. One new law, for instance, in the wings, will ban mixed gender groups from going to Robinson's Arch. If you've ever been to Israel, you've been with a mixed group, they won't let you go as a mixed group to the wall, but if you go around the corner, there is an area called Robinson's Arch that the government reluctantly gave for Jews to gather if they did not want to be segregated by gender. And now, there's a very real possibility that access to that area will be cut off. No mixed gender groups allowed. Another law that's on the books about to go before the Knesset, where it will automatically get enough votes. Any law that in any way supports conversion by non-Orthodox Jews is going to be dismissed. In other words, any non-Orthodox rabbi here or in Israel will not be recognized as having the authority to bring someone into Judaism. And yes, there's another law poised to be presented to the Knesset that will reject the current grandparent clause that allows someone to enter Israel as a citizen even if only one grandparent is Jewish. Why are these laws being promulgated? It suggests a dramatic grab for power by a handful of ultra-Orthodox men who want to redefine who is a Jew. That is a state where we will not be welcome. For a Zionist, I grew up always feeling included in Israel. And now I see the real possibility of being counted out. And it breaks my heart. I am a proud Reform Jew. I've traveled to Israel with many of you out of a deep commitment and familial love of Israel. We traveled together as Reform brothers and sisters. It's impossible for me now to imagine that our money will be gratefully accepted, but our worship will not. That's what it means to be defunded as a movement. We are not like the hapless Christian evangelicals from whom Israel teases millions of dollars away. But behind closed doors, those same Jews that say, oh, we welcome evangelical Christians, those same Jews behind closed doors, they deride, they make fun of those very Christians whose money they are taking. We're supposed to be members of the international Jewish family, but that day, in the eyes of those in power, those days have come and gone. What does it mean that we're about to be jettisoned? The ultra-Orthodox have always felt this way about us, but now it's going to be backed by Israeli law. And God knows it goes beyond Reform and conservative Jews of America. Right now, the women of Israel, women in the Knesset, women fighter pilots, women physicians, women leaders in tech, all of these women are greatly concerned about what basic rights they may imminently lose due to a minority of ultra-Orthodox politicians. These politicians are our Afghani warlords when it comes to women in public, in school, in the world. Right now, women who are waiting for a bus are being forced to the back of the bus to make room for men. Right now. Orthodox drivers are forcing women to cover themselves with blankets if they want a ride, or they're being refused a ride altogether. More threatened still are Israeli citizens who constitute the GLBTQ plus community. There is an active movement among ultra-right politicians who will do everything they can to deny them every possible right. The right to adopt, the right to legal marriage, the right of same-sex couples to hold hands in public. There is the very real possibility there will be no Israeli Supreme Court to protect their rights as they have been protected over the years. Look, I'm not an expert in Israeli jurisprudence, but I read a lot. I talk to people. I'm an avid media hound, and I'm seeing the same things that you are. A prime minister desperate to stay out of jail has decided to sacrifice the judges who may put him there. And a minority of Israelis with anti-democratic tendencies is willing to back him even if it means the end of the modern state. Their own motivations are a deplorable mix. Defeat the prospect of Palestinian statehood, expand the settlements and Jewish sovereignty, extract army exemptions for yeshiva students. That is to say, instead of yeshiva-age students serving in the army like the rest of Israeli public, they will be paid to study in a yeshiva instead, and they will hold the state of Israel hostage for funding welfare payments because they don't work. Whatever the motivation, they're ready to burn the house down, rip out the underpinnings of democracy, and redefine how we live and practice as Jews. I think I understand how this drift has happened in other lands, this drift from democracy, but the shock is that it's happening in Israel. Maybe I've made too many assumptions how our ancestors committed themselves to a vision of redemption and plurality, to be an Or L'Goyim, a light to the nations. I thought that the Jews from 100 different countries gathered between Jordan and the sea would always believe in democratic inclusion, that they would live by the words of the Israeli Declaration of Independence. Those are words that have shaped my Zionism since I was old enough to understand them. And side by side with them, the words of Hatikva, one of the only national anthems that exist out in the world that does not mention blood or guns or cannons. It talks about holding on to a hope, Hatikva, the hope, the most inspiring dimension of Jewish life. But I don't know now. How can we reconcile the words of the Declaration of Independence and the policy commitments of the current government about gays and lesbians, about Israeli women, about Reform Jews, about Arab Israeli citizens and the rights of millions of Palestinians living in the West Bank and Gaza? I regret to say this, the possibility of reconciliation feels remote. I'm afraid that the hope, Hatikva, is in danger. Neither the national anthem nor the words of the Declaration of Independence are being reflected in what is happening in Israel right now. And in fact, in a recent move, one of the ultra-right-wing members of the cabinet in Israel suggested the Declaration of Independence should not be looked at as legitimate because it was never fully voted on by enough people. Of course, there was a war happening the next day, but that doesn't seem to have made a difference. I'm not the only person who feels this way. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Israelis are asking about the very same issue and are opposed to passing the misguided laws that I've mentioned. and more. This question is not a left-wing, right-wing split. It's not. It's clear when we look at this year's demonstrations that have happened every Saturday for 37 weeks. Those simple binaries just don't apply. If you look at the crowds and you talk to Israelis, as I have, who's there? Who's showing up? Tech workers, kibbutzniks, falafel makers, academics, bus drivers, fighter pilots, princes and princesses of industry, and they are out there every Saturday night. My friend Varda goes every Saturday night. Sometimes she takes her grandchild. We talked on the phone about this, and she said, we're doing this for the grandchildren. We're doing this for their future. This is a government that is trying to codify our exclusion, refusing to recognize Reform and conservative Jews. A government that is legislating over 225 laws that would make Israel a hollow democracy with strong theocratic undertones. A government that shares no values with our congregation. A government that accommodates and tolerates anti-Semitism as long as the anti-Semites don't care about settlements or democracy. And they don't. How else can you explain how the Israeli government can cuddle up to the Hungarian government and the Polish government? I grew up in two worlds with a foot in each. I feel battle-weary as I hold up my metaphorical banner for justice and freedom in both of my worlds. I have to admit that my arms are sore and my heart is heavy. In both places, my assumptions have always been that democracy is eternally vital and secure, that democracy could never be threatened at its foundation. But in both of these lands, and I've grown up, I've learned a very hard lesson. I have seen how ignorance, fear, and self-interest can topple the loftiest of aspirations. I never imagined just how fragile democracy is here. I never imagined how fragile democracy is there. So what's to be done? Well, someone has said to me, maybe it's time for us to walk away. Maybe we can just have to say, we can't follow you. Our Judaism has to be built and based on who and what we are and our values. We cannot follow this path off the cliff. But my Zionist DNA makes that impossible. This is not the time for us to turn our backs, not the time to talk about boycotts, divestments, and sanctions. Let us think about a different course, about affirming a Zionism based on our sense of love and devotion to the ideals that still beat in Jewish hearts the world over. By that I mean the majority of Israelis and the vast majority of Jews all over the world. And that's the calculus that should guide all of our decisions. We do have a role in this current debate, and we cannot be ignorant. We cannot be ignorant. We have to read and pay attention. We are not just hopeless diasporans. A few people have said, well, are you still going to take that trip, the Beth Avodah trip to Israel in April? And my answer is emphatically yes. We are going, we'll enjoy, we'll spend our money, we'll see all the good stuff, we'll eat all the good food, we're going to have a great time. But it's about more than falafel in the Dead Sea. It's about solidarity, and we will show our solidarity. And on this side of the world, we will do the same. We'll continue to ask the CJP, who's been really good on this issue, to support equality and justice and democracy in Israel. We will work closely with the Israel Religious Action Center, an essential movement for justice with whom the URJ works. We will work hard at this temple to provide our children, all of our members, with the reasons that Israel belongs to us. All the ways Israel remains crucial. We want our kids to see Israel as a place that they will cherish, a place where they will be cherished in return. We Jews know why hope is indivisible. In prayers and songs and art and life, we Jews have expressed the undying conviction that we can only thrive in a democratic world that offers justice and equality to all people. There is no place in the world when human rights are snatched away the Jews will not ultimately suffer. This is true in Newton. It's true in Budapest. It's true in Rio de Janeiro. It's especially true in Washington and Jerusalem. And so we hope, we lean in. It's essential at this burdened and parlous moment that we recommit ourselves to the Zionist idea. There is no meaning in an eviscerated Zionism that denies the fundamental dignity of all people and turns the state of Israel into an Orthodox passion project. There is no worth in a political program that allows the state to be hijacked by grasping politicians or deformed by triumphalist ethno-radicals. 100 years ago, Theodor Herzl wrote the words, Im tirtzu, enzo agada. If you really want this, it is not a dream. If you really want this, it's not a fairy tale. And so, let me just let you know. Here, these words, written in 1947, these are the words from the Declaration of Independence that Israel has lived by, that people have demonstrated on behalf of for 37 straight weeks. We will not abandon our people at their time of crisis. We will rededicate our commitment to the solemn pledge made in the Israeli Declaration of Independence. Here is a paragraph I want you to hear. The state of Israel will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace as envisaged by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions. And it will be faithful to the principles found amongst the books of our ancestors. This promise, this pledge is the hope, our hope. If you'd please rise. You will find the words in the sheet that you received. Kolod baleva pnima nefesh Yehudi homiya ufatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia lo avda tikvatenu התקווה בת 3,000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים. Well, we're standing on page 286. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Shemo, Ushemo Echad. We take this moment now to remember those who are not with us, whom death has taken in this season and in years past. Next week, when we gather for Kol Nidre, every light on the board will be lit as we remember all of our loved ones who were dedicated to including in Kaddish every week. We think of all of them. Today we remember those who have died in this season and in years past. Charles Lipson, Mickey Lipkin, Paul Merlin, Francine Snyder, Dorothy Court, and the Yarsad observances for Lewis Allen, Henry Allen, Alexis Bachman, Samantha Bachman, Ronald College, Max Derby, Max Glick, Richard Gordon, Saul Greenfield, Anita Localis, Carl Kane, Saul Katz, Paul Krasner, Bert Lang, Sylvia Levitt, Rose Levin, Chandra Levine, Jean Lieberfarb, Judith Mizell, Lawrence Rubin, Harry Sklar, Herb Siegel, Leon Scheinfield, Robert Siff, Slim Stainhouse, Edward Swartz, Dorothy Weinstein, Seymour Weinstein, Lena Yaffe. The memories of all of them are with us. The memories of all of our loved ones whom we have lost over these years abide close to us as we recite together on page 292, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechal Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam me'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela ule'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Ta'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shamaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who brings peace to the heavens bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world. And we all say, amen. Please be seated. Just a couple of quick announcements before the Shofar service. Tashlich, the custom that we follow, which is to cast our sins on the water as a way of preparing ourselves to live this year feeling freed of our sins, of the things that hold us back. But one of the only traditional rules we actually follow when it comes to High Holy Days is we don't do it on this day because it's Shabbat, we do it on Sunday. And plus the weather will probably be a little better tomorrow, not to mention. So please join us for Tashlich at 1:15. We'll have stuff for you, but if you want to bring some breadcrumbs or some bird seeds or any other substance that you want to represent your sins, throw them out on the water. And we'll be walking behind the temple, a little known body of water that exists there, probably a pretty big body of water these days, and we'll invite you to join us for that. We are having our food drive between now and Yom Kippur. There are ways to do this, online donation. One of the things we hope that you will absolutely do for us is go online. There's a link for salmon and raisins. Now, you might think, why do they always give us salmon and raisins to collect? I don't know. It does not sound particularly palatable, but that's what we're being asked to collect. So you can bring some in a bag if you want, or even easier, just go online, go to Amazon. Some of you don't like Amazon. Any way you want to go, stop and shop. You pick the place. But if you would have delivered to the temple a nice, good case of salmon and raisins, and then we'll make sure it gets to the food bank where it will feed needy Jewish families. Also, if you want to bring bags, some of you are just like, I got to bring bags to the temple of food. I just can't, I just got to do it. So we are always glad to help provide the fridge with food in Newton and Roslindale. So if you need help in getting bags to those places, we will let you know. We'll be glad to help you do that. Just if you're doing that, filling your bag with non-perishables, just as I always say, please don't include that walnut oil you bought and never used in 2002, and it's sitting there on your shelf. You're afraid to open it because you know what it's going to smell like. We don't want that. Just bite the bullet and throw it away. Or you can bring it to James or to my wife, who will eat anything that has not, as long as it's not expired in the previous century. They'll take on the 21st century with no problem. Sorry, Janet, I'm just kidding. All right, and there's a lot going on next year. There's a program guide on your way out. Please pick one up. We need you to know what's going on. We need you to participate, and we want your input all the time. And yes, one last thing. If you have a child on the bima right now, just don't forget to pick them up at the end of the service. Not that you would ever do that, but Becky, have we forgotten anything? That's the announcements. Well, in that case, I think this is just a fine day. And if you are sounding a shofar today, would you please join me on the bima? A small dark room where I will wait. Face to face I find, I contemplate. Even though a man is made of clay, everything can change that one fine day. Fine day, then before my eyes is standing still. I beheld it there, a city on a hill. I complete my tasks one by one. I remove my mask when I am done. Then a peace of mind fell over me. In these troubled times, I still can see. We can use the stars to guide the way. It is not that far, that one fine day. One fine day. One fine day. One fine day. On page 206. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kidshano b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lishmoa kol shofar, source of blessing, eternal our God. You fill the universe with majestic might, summoning us to hear the sound of the shofar. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu v'hiyanu lazman hazeh. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time. Tekiah, Shivarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shivarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shivarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shivarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Tekiah Gedolah. One fine day, one fine day, one fine day, one fine day. Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom, a good year. A good year of peace. Thanks, man.